Thank you so much for being here today. Can you please tell us your name, what you do, and a little bit about your background?
So my name is Chris Tomasso. I am by day a gamification consultant, but I am also so much more than that. I feel inspired to share about my spiritual journey a bit. I got into the law of attraction about 20 years ago, and I really wanted to build an empire and be rich and famous and all that good stuff. And it didn't work for me at all. And I assumed it didn't work. I was like, oh, this is garbage. And then I went on a long spiritual path and learned a lot about non-dualism, and then kind of like, which is sort of like really far out there to the other extreme. And then I came back to law of attraction a few years ago, and came at it from an energetic or emotional place and learned about energy work and like moving energy through body, which got me a bit further, which was good. And then I discovered Makosi's container, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in the next questions. But yeah, so I'm into a lot of stuff. More recently, I've been into kind of like the metaverse and future thinking and blockchain and all that kind of stuff. But that I've always been a futuristic thinker. I just didn't know what to do with it, because as a kid, you're a futuristic thinker. You're like writing stories, sci-fi stories or whatever, and you don't know, like, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel like reality. And I've kind of always had this challenge of thinking I was a little bit crazy, like a little bit out there, and not having validation and not having validation from the environment, not trusting myself or believing in myself and being concerned about that. And so again, that's been changing in recent years, which has been really cool.
Wow, I love all of that so much. And I feel like so many of our clients can relate to your story.
Yeah.
So, what made you really want to work with Makosi? What would you say you were really struggling with that drew you to her work?
So I met Makosi at a healing house with a bunch of really amazing people, like entrepreneurs, but also healers and kind of visionary types. And that experience itself was incredible. Also because I got to work with Makosi one on one, which is like something that's very difficult to happen at this point. I got very lucky, and we did ancestral healing, which at the time I was like, what is that? And without going too deep into it, is very profound experience, kind of like opened up a lot for me. So when I learned that she had a container, or like a monthly membership thing that I could afford, it was kind of, it wasn't a no-brainer. Like my soul, it was a no-brainer. My mind was like, I don't know, I've never spent this much money on something consistently, so let's see, like, it felt like a big risk. um but yeah, I would say my soul won out. Like, when I really listened to it, it just felt like the right thing to do. I just wanted to spend more time around her energy and the people that she cultivates in the community and learn. I've always been a bit of a, like, I'll call it teacher's pet. Like, I'm kind of obsessed with learning and like understanding things. And I have this like need to know and understand, which is both a good thing and also can be a crutch. And I believe that Makosi had some information. I called it information at the time, but some missing piece for me of the puzzle of the game of life or manifesting or whatnot. And I had just jumped out of a coaching program that was very yang based, very like action and structure and goals, and your 7 goals or 7 different aspects of life. And each of these things has a goal, and you have a weekly goal and a quarterly goal and all this stuff. And that was all really great. And it left me wanting. I was like, this can't be the only way to like get what I want in life.
Yeah. So, what would you say are some of the tangible changes and success you've had since coming into the container?
Yeah. So the first big tangible change is basically deconditioning my mind. And what that looks like in practice is becoming more aware of when my mind is creating a story about something, not and disconnecting that from what I assume is not real or like the only way to view it. And then consciously choosing, like, how do I want to see this thing in my life? And and that means that these patterns that have been continually presenting themselves in my life that I've been unable to escape before. Now I've started to be able to change. For example, like money for I was in the past, I very much like came from a place of lack, and I never made that much money when I was younger. It's only recently that I've been making money, but it's also been this like really up and down volatile experience where I make it and then lose it. And then I'm back to where I was. This has given me a lot more peace with that because I've been connecting something beyond myself, beyond my present moment. The identity piece that Makosi talks about all the time is a foundation of her work. Being able to do that means I'm able to access the feelings that I want now without condition more and more. And that's like so powerful. And like I said, the tangible benefits of I currently have more money than I've ever had, which is not as much as I want to have. So I'm kind of dissatisfied, but in terms objectively, it's definitely improving. And for the first time, like I said, when I signed up for the container, I was like, can I justify paying even this much, which was like the very low end of what Makosi charges for her work. And now I've been paying that for like 7 months. And every month I have this check-in of like, do I still want to pay? And there's always like some amazing value that's given. So, and I think to myself, like, this is worth like so much more money than what I'm paying. And I'm able to pay it. I keep getting more money coming in. And so that's a big difference. I need to drink water for a second.
Yeah, I will say for myself as well, I think one of the most impactful lessons I learned from her as well is that you really get to choose what you make something mean. And we create our own suffering more times than not in what we're choosing to perceive any situation or experience as. And we really have sovereignty to choose what we make something mean. So I love that you pulled that out because I completely agree with you. And I do know you've had some success in your own personal business as well. I believe that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you shared that you received your first paying client independently since joining the container. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I did, yeah. And that was really cool because not because of the amount that I received, but because of the fact that it was the first time, because I'm very good at understanding someone else's framework and then presenting that. That's what I do at my job. Yeah. Right. And I'm very good at absorbing a framework and then representing it. And that's an amazing learning tool. And at the same time, it means that sometimes I don't get to show up as all of me. And that can be fairly limiting in the way that I engage and also in the amount of money that a person can make. Because I believe that if you're kind of just copying what someone else does, like it's not fully your genius. And so you restrict the flow of abundance. So that was an amazing experience because for the first time I was like, this is all of me. I am what I call a quantum wizard. I can see into your spiritual path and pull out what you need to do next. And if you have a business, I'm very good at like infinite dot connecting between your business and potential futures and that kind of stuff. And I had never like publicly declared that. And I did, and actually got a few people messaging me saying like, yes, I want to work with you. And since then, it's not been like, I've not built a huge business on it, but it was an experiment in showing me like I get to show up as all of me. And I would say that's another tangible benefit is I keep stepping more and more into all the many facets of who I am and be validated and reflected for the value that I'm bringing, just not through even my doing, but just who I am.
I love that so much. So who would you say, or what would you say is the difference as to who you were being when you first stepped into the container versus who Chris is today?
That's a good question. I would say that it's interesting because the identity piece is so important. Who I was when I stepped into the container was somebody seeking for something that they didn't know. As I said before, like the reason I came in is because I felt like there was some kind of missing piece that I would find. And more my identity is someone who already has that which I seek. And that's a practice. That's not like I'm just there. It's like I choose to be there through the work. So, and that's really amazing because in any given moment, I think to myself, like, oh, I already have the things that I want that I think that this external condition is going to give me. Like I'm already there. And so it allows me to have more like peace in the moment and less feeling like I'm working on a big break. Like there's going to be this thing, and once it does, then everything will change for me. And I realize that's actually a huge story that I just now am starting to unpack is this idea of the big break of, oh, once I meet this person and then they'll get me in front of an audience and then I'll have this kind of change. And that's pattern has repeated throughout my life. And I even am doing it now. Like it's easy for me to look at something and say that thing will be the thing that sets me free or gives me whatever it is that I want. And so, yeah, the big identity shift is recognizing that I get to be that now. In terms of who I'm playing with lots of different identities, the one that I'm working on right now is visionary millionaire or wealthy visionary. And I just added to that this month to be also a man of action because I don't want to just be a like chilling on my boat and doing nothing. I also want to be like engaging in the world in euphoric action. And so that's kind of like the thing I'm working on right now.
I love that so much. So, what would you say you believe now is possible since stepping into this container and having so many eternal shifts?
I think that literally anything I want to create is possible. It's just a matter of time. And so the thing that my growth edge is learning to like disconnect from time, from needing it to happen in a certain point. So I believe that anything is possible. It's just, do I believe it's possible within the time that I want it to be? When I say anything, I mean, I dream huge. Like I believe the amount of money I want to make is possible, traveling, the kinds of relationships I want to have, the kinds of work and creative projects I want to do.
Yeah. That sounds so amazing. I'm really excited to see what unfolds next for you as you continue down this path.
Yeah.
So, what would you say is the most euphoric part about working with Makosi and being in one of her containers?
Oh man. Well, I really love her transmissions because she like it's clear that she's channeling and she's like just elevating the frequency of like even remotely like it's I always save the date on those and make sure I show up for them because it's always like this kind of mind-blowing experience where I start to see things in a different way, like different aspects of business, different aspects of reality. She had a time bending one where we learned I suspected already, but kind of anchored in the fact that the future doesn't actually exist, and we're really just shifting realities from where we are now is the only thing that exists. So things like that are probably the most euphoric for me is when I'm downloading, I'm just like connecting to what she's streaming through and I'm downloading it. I will say though, that I had a very specific experience because I've been connecting to this wealthy visionary. I was trying to go for 7 identities at the same time, and Makosi was like, "You need to chill out and do like 1 or 2." So I focused on wealthy visionary, and I was really activating that, and I was like aligning with the moon cycles, which is a new thing that I just sort of revealed also since I've been in the container. And in like a month, maybe less than 2 months, possibly a month, I went from my life here, which is in Hawaii and remote, and there's a lot of good things about it, but it's very normal to me, to taking a plane to Kauai to like a millionaire's mansion, be like cliffside mansion, where I got put up in a guest house. I got paid to go there to do like a workshop and be in this incubator with a bunch of like visionary, rich, amazing, heart-centered, spiritually connected people. And I got to show up as me. So I wasn't just like the gamification consulting guy. I was like the quantum wizard that they were so happy was there. And every time I've done this kind of thing where I've been near people who had, rich people, I just call it, I've always felt this, like I kind of crashed it. Like I don't actually belong here, but I snuck in through the back door or something like that. And this was the first time where I walked in. I was like, no, I belong here. These are my people. And reality is showing me that, and it's stabilizing in that. And like, I just got to walk around in that for 3 days. Like, I was like, this could be my house. Like, this is my reality now. And that was a very euphoric experience because it showed just how fast this stuff can work when you do it, quote, correctly, when you're aligned, when your mind's not getting in the way, when you're not creating stories, when you're focusing on the identity, et cetera, all the stuff that you do in the container.
Yeah. Wow, I love that so much.
Yeah.
So what would you tell someone who is thinking about working with Makosi or stepping into one of her containers?
Yeah. Wow. Basically, like what I said before is like, is your soul calling you? Does this feel like something there's something here, even if you're not sure what it is? Um, are you being called to wake up or show up in a bigger way? Has your life not been working for you in the ways that I described? Are you taking too much of a yang approach? Are you trying to like force things to happen in your life? Even if you've understood other modalities like law of attraction, manifesting, are you trying to force that? Are you trying to like, are you trying to vision board and like do affirmations? I listened to Abraham Hicks for a year straight and wrote affirmations and gratitude every day. And it did barely nothing because I was not aligned. So if you feel called, like there's something you want this to be in more flow or easier, not easier, but more aligned with your spirit. Are you ready to go to the next level of your life, which isn't going to be all good? There's going to be challenges, but you still feel pulled to do it anyway. Then I would highly recommend it. This is the best teaching about manifesting I've ever received, and I've received a lot. I've been a coach for other law of attraction teachers. Um, I've written books on manifesting because I thought that writing them would make them come true. Yeah, so it's really just it's really a connection to yourself, because that's the community that's showing up. Everybody who's showing up is like, you're speaking the language that I always wanted to know. Like there's a piece of you that just knows, I guess. And so it's really just getting out of the way of the piece of you that knows. It's not about writing down a list of pros and cons of, is this thing going to work for me? Because honestly, like, it didn't start showing up as, if you think about it like a return on investment, the money didn't start showing up for me in a big way until like 5 months into the container or 6 months in the container. So it's not going to be like you're instantly going to generate money. Potentially depends on you and your particular journey. So it's something where you just have to take. It's a risk, but it teaches you the spiritual path, which is challenges show up, and you either go back into more unconscious way of being and go into your stories that are not serving you, or you decide to show up and walk a path that is scary. And so for me specifically, the path that was scary was the money piece. I knew that I could understand it. I knew that I could be part of the community. I knew that it would benefit me. I just didn't know if I could afford it. And that was my big scary thing. And so whatever your big scary thing is that's stopping you from doing it, know that this is good and this is right. And this is what walking the spiritual path is, more and more. I would say, going back to your previous question of what is euphoric or what are the big changes, is recognizing challenges as growth, like directly, and seeing that direct connection and be, oh, this is coming up so I can solve. And then the feedback loop of how fast you can recognize something as a challenge, step into it with courage, release whatever needs to be released, get clarity, and then move forward. And then it happens again. Most people spend years or forever. They get locked into these challenges that they never get beyond. You can start getting beyond things like within a week or a month or a couple days even. So
Yes. Well, Chris, I want to thank you for sharing your time with us today and your
Sure.
journey with Makosi and the Royal Shaman team. I
Yeah.
feel like you've had such an amazing journey, and I'm so excited because this is truly just the beginning for you. And we're very excited to have you with us and see what you create in 2022 and moving on.